So good morning to everybody. I'm here to talk about a very long-term program rather than project of the inspection from the air of one of the most productive area concerning the settlement history, especially prehistoric settlement history, in a territory, in the landscape, which is not actually far from the capital, Prague, something like 35-40 kilometers north of it. And it is actually, as you can see even on this photograph, it is actually headed by this solitary mount or hill of Říp, which actually creates very interesting topography, the key topography of the surrounding plateau area. No, that's end. This one. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Stop. Yeah, okay.
Here we are. Okay. This. Okay. Yeah, so this is, sorry, just go back. Yes. So this is the map of the Czech Republic with the territory, which is actually lined by the black line, and which indicates the most fertile part of Bohemia, which obviously has been settled most densely and most intensively since the Neolithic times until modern period. Obviously, the yellow circle in there actually indicates the area, the territory which I am talking about, which actually which belongs to one of the most fruitful area concerning the production of food, agriculture, farming, and so on, because of the Elbe river, large and flat valley. Okay. So as you can see, this is a map taken from our distribution of sites taken from the main central archaeological information system of our country, the so-called archaeological map of the Czech Republic, where you can see really the biggest density of settlement just in the Labe and Ohře rivers. So the territory and its geography is quite interesting. It's actually, we are placed in a flat plateau, which is rising above the Labe Valley, somewhere even up to more than 100 meters. So it's the position of the hill of the mount is actually very exclusive, and the mount due to the reason that it's just solitary is visible from almost everywhere, and you can in very good climate condition days you can see from the top of this mount very large part of Bohemia. So just a few images bringing the idea about the landscape, which is situated actually in territory which is full of art historical, architectural, urban sites and monuments, villages, cities, and so on. So. And even you can see the old field system, which remained since the great shift of the arrangement of the landscape since the late 1940s and 1950s, during the taking over power by communists in our country, who actually the system of small fields changed very quickly within 10 years or so into large plains of fields. So this is one of the few remains of the original structure of the agricultural landscape. So there's the morphology with Hill of Říp here. So this is the Labe Valley, and this is the plateau rising up to usually between something like 50 to 100 meters above it. The hill itself, or the mount itself, is something like 462 or 61 meters above the sea level, raising up the surrounding plateau by 200 meters to the top, from the foot to the top. The hill is very much connected with the earliest history of Bohemia, and has been, especially during the 18th, 19th century, became such a national, if you like, a national site, number 2 maybe after Prague Castle, and so it's connected with a lot of legends, and actually is for the first time mentioned in a chronicle from the 12th century as a place where the so-called forefather Czech brought his people, the early Slavs, somewhere in the 6th century to the country, going up to the top and saying, this is the country where we will stay, and etc., etc. So that's the legend. That's what I was talking about a little bit. Here you can see also that although it is surrounded by a relatively large plateau, in the background we can see actually 2 layers, if you like, two horizontal layers. The first one is this one is the central Bohemian highland, and the other one, it is the border mountain range of Krušné hory, which is neighboring to Saxony, or southeastern Germany, if you like. We actually started to follow and to detect archaeology in this area just since the very beginning of the program in the mid-1990s, and actually, especially during the first 20 years, we were trying to find as much as possible, because we owned our aircraft in the Institute of Archaeology, and that was the reason why we were repeatedly flying over this area. Obviously, it was not the only one, but I would say that one of the crucial Bohemian areas to be under survey. Since the very beginning, we actually applied a variety of methods. Most of all were non-invasive methods. We also during this period we also did some sample excavations on very properly assorted sites, and especially just to make a sample example. We included our students, of course, to both on-site and off-site surface collection of artifacts on the surface, which mostly, as you can see, are pottery fragments, but also sometimes flints and stone implements, bones, etc., etc. We tried during the years to include variety of remote sensing methods and data, including in the last few or 10 years or so, new techniques which arrived and helped us to use, for instance, RGB and multispectral thermal visualization of some sites, etc. We obviously also included somehow satellite imagery, like in here, I think it is from Ikonos, taken somewhere in the 2005 or something like that. But obviously, most of the activity on the detection of archaeological remains, especially prehistoric remains in this area, was taken from the air by the aircraft which was owned by the Institute between 1997 and 2015. We obviously focused on, because the plateau is actually, until the time when we started to provide, to practice this survey, the plateau was actually said to be archaeologically not too good, because I mean, because even the settlement history, because as it is flat, they said there is no water streams, etc. But obviously, later we found out when GIS arrived that the reconstruction of the morphology of the terrain shows indications on the existence of although small streams, but anyway. So, and in fact, the very important point is that we have gravel and sand subsoil in there. This yellow are lowest, which is not that productive, but as you can see even in here, it is the case of gravel and sand subsoil territories. So this is actually the resulting map of the archaeological air prospection during the last 25 years or so, as it is based in the archaeological map of the Czech Republic, with the Říp in here and with most closer view of the country and the polygons of air detective crop-marked sites. The point is that I can say that it's about half of all the sites detected by us are settlements, and the other half are cemeteries. So these are examples of settlements, like in here, for instance, you can see sunken houses situated close to a recent village, and etc. Some of them are very close. This is, I think, the closest situated settlement site, closest to the Říp Hill. It is this one. As you can see in here, most of the sites are situated on local promontories and morphologically quite different and higher positions than is the surrounding flat area, like in here. At the same time, as I said, we have quite a lot. We have evidenced or recorded quite a lot of burial sites, and some of them, as you can see on the image in here, were actually excavated during the construction activities in there. They mostly are, but what the problem? No, not the problem, but the point is that all these, or most of these burials are these relatively small, either ring ditches or rectangular ditches, which are quite often. But we had any idea about the existence of long barrows quite a long time, which are completely different. As you can see in here, even in relatively small a piece of landscape which is forested, like in here, we have these mounds preserved. Some of them are relatively well preserved. Most of them are just very badly visible on the surface. But obviously we have LiDAR, so here you can see those which I was showing on the previous photographs. And that helps, of course, to map them. So the second stage, I would say, of this project, or this program, long-term project, is concerning the last 10 years, the last decade, when we focused, and especially my colleagues, Petr, Krištuf, and Turek, focused on prehistoric ritual and funerary expressions in the archaeology of the Říp landscape. So there were two projects actually headed by them, which were most focused on the sample excavations of selected sites. We also did some even before excavations, for instance, sample excavations, trenches across the system of ditches in the late 1990s, but then also they repeated some excavations there later on. And this activity concerning to the ceremonial sites, collective ceremonial sites, was actually then finalized by the publication of this book, Cult and Ritual, at the beginning of the Neolithic period. So now we are coming to the long barrows. Most of you probably know about the megalithic long barrows, but in Central Europe, especially in the territory around Bohemia and in Bohemia, we have nothing like that. So this is the spread distribution of long barrows, including both the megalithic and non-megalithic in this part. This part of Europe. This is the spread, the distribution of the long barrows in Bohemia, which is something like 60 to 70 sites, and two principal types, the deltoid one and the rectangular one. So here is the map which actually indicates the distribution of long barrows in the very crucial territory between the confluence of two most important Czech rivers. This is Labe River and Vltava, Moldau. Labe is Elbe River, and this is Ohře River, the third most important river. Also, as you can see, neighboring by lowland fertile areas. So the two types, the two principal types of these long barrows, one of the first one, which are very long and relatively narrow barrows were excavated in these trenches that you can see at the eastern entrance and in the burial site. All of them are oriented west to east, and in this case, we can see a magnetic measurement result. Here you can see, which is quite often the case, a small ring ditch with a burial, which was just recently this year excavated, and which actually showed us very similar result, or the same result, like in here, where we have a secondary grave dated to the very late Neolithic, to the late Neolithic stage of this time. Yes, this is actually the part, the shrine at the eastern, the so-called shrine at the eastern part of this mount, and this is the place of the grave. So definitely, these long barrows in here were not collective graves. They were always constructed for just one person, and only later, 1,000 years later, for instance, secondary graves came there. Another of these, this is the type, which is the deltoid type of the long barrow, which was partly excavated with the results of finding just a 10 years old small boy placed as a person with very poor inventory, just one vase, pottery vase in there. That's the drawn photograph of the site during the excavation, and this is the reconstruction, including the trench over there. Also, of course, it is a environmental reconstruction of the area during the time of the construction, for instance, of this forest, which showed that the area was not used for any say farming activities, but it was covered by relatively spare distribution of forests. Again, here we can see the position of a specific position on a ridge, local ridge of another long barrow, geophysical measurement, and some finds connected with this Vraškov monument, which are of later coming from this one, from these ribs from the early Bronze Age, which means something like 1,000 years later than it was. And this is Michelsberg Cup, which was situated also in the ditch surrounding the So that's actually the collective of people who actually contributed to this project, to this project, and just as you can see, just recently, or actually this year, it was published in the whole project was published in Oxbow Publishers. Okay.